of you know that Milo is the smallest member of our family. However, he is a very large Boston Terrier. Now Milo's sitting on one of his pet beds. He actually has 3 in our home, but this is the one that he uses when he's in here in my quilt room with me. So I decided to make slip covers for Milo's pet bed that goes in my quilt room. 3 reasons I decided to make these is, number 1, this is going to reduce the number of times I have to put this big pet bed in my washer. Number 2, I'm going to be able to wash it more frequently and keep it cleaner simply because I'll be able to throw this in with his blanket. And number 3, it's a great way to use some of those fun fabrics in your stash. To begin with, I measured Milo's pet bed. This measured 27 by 34 inches. So if you want to make one of these for your pet's bed, this is how I did mine, and you'll be able to use the same little formula here. Okay, so his pet bed was 27 by 34 inches. So for the width, I added 3 inches for the seam allowances because I'm going to do a French seam. So I allowed 3 inches there. Then for the length, from here to here is 34 inches, and I'm just cutting one large piece of fabric, so you're going to have to add 34 plus 34. So 34 times 2 is 68, and then I added an additional 10 inches, and that's for the flap that will come down on the inside and the seams to finish the edges so that they won't unravel. So my fabric piece I cut to 30 by 78 inches. Here is the fabric I selected. I just used a piece that I have that's a really old fabric, and I'm going to start first by finishing each end. Now I like to use my little hot ruler, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this to fold up 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to press that across. And then when I have that pressed across, I'm going to fold it over again, and I'll stitch right along the sides there. And I'm going to do that on both of the short ends. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want a finished edge there. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. You can see how I've pressed 1/4 of an inch down, and then I just folded that over and pressed it. The ruler that I used is called a hot ruler, and you can press right onto this. And I really like using this because it just gives you such a nice, even little fold there, and it's consistent, and it looks just super nice. So I did use this hot ruler. These are put out by Clover, and I'll put a link in the description below. So both of the ends are finished like this. So on one end I'm going to turn it down 10 inches, and I'm going to sew a little seam along the sides. Now this is turned to the inside. Now this is for the pet bed to rest in, just like in those pillowcases in hotels that you see. Actually, we have a couple of them that do that also. So I turned it down 10 inches, and I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch seam here and 1/4 of an inch seam here. So this has been sewn down here. Now I'm going to use a French seam to finish the edges here. It may look like it's not going to work, but this will work. Okay, so there's the flap that we're going to need. And I'm going to pin this, and I'm going to sew a scant 1/4 of an inch right along here with the wrong sides together. I know it seems like it's not going to work, but it is. Now that each side is sewn, I'm going to turn it right side out, and I'm going to be sure this is pressed really well to one side. And I did back tack at each end. Now you can see how I pressed that seam really flat there. And then I'm going to take it to the ironing board and I'm going to press it really good, just like that. So I have it all worked out and it's super, super flat. Now as you can see, that is pressed really, really flat, and that seam is pressed open so that there's no foldovers. And I'm going to go ahead and pin this because I don't want the fabric to fold back over on itself. And right there is the edge of the fabric, so I'm going to sew just about 1/8 of an inch away from there. So instead of 1/4 of an inch here, I'm going to do 3/8 of an inch to be sure I'm enclosing that seam in there. And that's your French seam, so that when I turn it right side out, none of that will be sticking out. It did take a little bit of time to get that seam pressed out flat, so be sure to take your time there, and then on the end, be sure you have that all the way out. Okay, and I'm just going to repeat the same thing with the other side. Now you can see I took a little bit bigger seam there to be sure that was all encased. You could see I could have done just a little bit more narrow, but I wanted to be sure that was all encased there. So here it is, turned wrong side out. Here's the flap that the pet bed will go, that the actual bed will go under. And then when you turn it right side out, oh, I wanted to show you a little tip. If you just fold this back like that and then just push it through, it'll come out just a perfect little corner there. When you turn that right side out, you can see how nice that comes out. And right here you can see how nice that turned out. Now when I was sewing the seam, I made sure I back tacked several times at the beginning and the end of each space there, and you can see that there's the French seam and all the raw edges are encased inside that. I am going to go ahead and press this just a little bit, but you can see how there are no raw edges showing. There it is, it's all finished. You can see the inside there where the pet bed's going to go. All the seams are encased. And there's Milo's new slipcover to his pet bed. I've actually made him 3. I made him 2 black and white ones and this one, so I can put a clean one on and wash the others. I really do like how these turned out, and I really am hoping that it's going to help me keep this whole thing cleaner without having to wash this big thing in my washer. And I'm going to also make some for the larger bed that has a zippered thing that you can unzip, but I'm going to make a bigger one for that one so that we don't have to wash that one as frequently. Like I said, it's just a lot easier to wash these slip covers than these big, heavy beds. In the comments below, tell me if you use slip covers, if you use anything like this for your pet bed, and or how you keep your pet's bed clean. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share, and until next time, have fun quilting.